Thinking is hard, and welcome to ETC. My name is Josh, and I'm here with my beautiful wife,
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Minnie Mouse.
That's closer.
Bailey.
And this is ETC, End of Thought Capacity. And today on episode 5, we are talking about theme parks.
Ooh.
Disney, Universal,
SeaWorld, Legoland, Six Flags, Busch Gardens, Cedar Point.
I call them the
Disneyland.
crucible, the crucible of relationships.
Yeah.
They make or break them.
Well, and we've heard it before. When you start dating someone, you are told to go to Disneyland or Disney World with them because that's the happiest place on earth. And I don't know if you're listening, I just put quotes to that because if you've ever been there, it is most certainly not always the happiest.
Not always the happiest people at the happiest place on earth.
Like, you may be very happy, but woo! 2 seconds next to you, there's someone screaming and crying. So, you're definitely tested there, and yeah, your relationship either flourishes or flops.
So we've got a couple talking points about theme parks and relationships. We can't talk too much about what it's like having kids at theme parks because we don't have kids, but we've definitely seen quite a bit. So we can at least speak on our observations, right. I would say.
Yep. So
our first point is what makes trips to theme parks so stressful for relationships and for people in general?
Maybe I personally think it might be the planning process. So, one person might just be like, go with the flow. And the other one might be like, ooh, I like to plan like exactly the route we're going, what park we're going to first, where we're eating, where we're, what type of, everything, literally like what rides we're riding, all of that. So there are certain things that can definitely make the parks stressful for a relationship.
There's a lot of people there, so it's very busy. Things never quite go as planned often. You have dinner plans, so like you got to factor in, am I going to have enough time to wait in this super long line? It's already stressful. It might be hot out. You might be hungry and tired and walking all day, so now your feet hurt and you just get irritable,
and also,
stuff like that.
It's kind of telling like how your partner reacts to you being stressed out. Like if you're stressed out or they're stressed out and they maybe lash out at you or like yell at you or something, I don't know, that's like kind of extreme, then you might be like, whoa, what would they be like in a much less crowded, less stressful situation, but still stressful, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
Like, are they going to be like this in any stressful situation? Because life really throws you curveballs, which is why they tell you, go to a theme park, because that'll give you your first insight to what your relationship is like when it's stressful. When you get out into the real world, like if your car breaks down or if, something whack happens, life kind of continues on and you have to move forward and continue. It just shows the person, like, what kind of person you might be during those situations. Because you can be a great person, but if something, like, bad were to happen, you change it to a whole different person in different scenarios. So
I think I'm definitely more of a go with the flow. And I have a point on here of type A versus type B, and Bailey is definitely type A.
I like to plan everything. Like the hotel, what park we're going to, what we're having for dinner or lunch or breakfast. I just like to know things. It gives me like a sense of peace of mind. So I don't like to, I wouldn't say I don't like to go with the flow, but it does.
You like the security of knowing what you're going to do next.
Yes. And especially with having dietary restrictions, it's a lot more helpful for me to know like what we're doing. That way, because I have dietary restrictions, it does take a little bit more time for food prep. So it's nicer to know, what's going on. That way I can kind of fit in my schedule so no one else is really relying on myself. So I've learned that over the last 5 years. But that's just, and what's funny is I never was like that, like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I just kind of was go with the flow. Like we would just do whatever. But now that I've had to plan out a lot of things because of dietary restrictions, I've just become
got to go to restaurants that you trust.
But like also everything else along with that, like the parks, I'm like obsessed with planning. So, but yes, I'm definitely a type A, and Josh is definitely a type B, and that's fine because I feel like we balance each other out.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's definitely times where you'll plan something, or like you'll be working on a plan, like, oh, Josh, where would you like to eat? I'm like, I don't care. I'm just there for a good time, and you're like, that doesn't help. Where do you want to eat?
Yeah.
So there's definitely times where I'm sure
I'm
you
here
wish.
for a good time too, but I don't know where to go either. So we gotta figure this out together.
So I'm definitely more go with the flow. I mean, I'm obviously more flexible because I don't have to worry about dietary restrictions as much, but I'm obviously very concerned about what Bailey can eat and where we can safely eat. Like while we were at Universal, we don't completely trust all Universal's kitchens as much as we do Disney. Mm-hmm. We've had pretty reliable success with Disney, and they're like, speaking with the chef. Like, we don't have to ask for the chef. We just put, hey, we have an allergy, and the chef comes out and like, hey, here's your food. We made it especially for you.
And they put a little stick in it.
Yeah,
it's like the safety stick is what I like to call it.
We just have more success with that, and we've been there more often.
Yeah.
Universal, I think, has the same idea. They want to be inclusive of dietary restrictions and allergies and stuff like that, but it's not quite as obvious as Disney. Like, in the Disney app, when you're scrolling through the menu, at the bottom of the menu is literally these items are gluten-free or can be made gluten-free. But at Universal, it's not quite as in your face. Like the one restaurant we ate at, there was an option for the gluten-free bun after you'd already chosen the meal, and there was an option for a dietary, like an allergy. There was like a symbol you could choose to let them know that you have an allergy. But because we didn't trust them so much, we didn't want to risk getting, cross-contaminated or anything.
And that can also be something to stress about. If you have any allergies, it's kind of risky to trust or put trust into someone else's hands to make sure that you're safe. Because, you don't want it to ruin the trip. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to feel guilty because it ruined the trip. It's never your fault that you got sick, or you had an allergy reaction. But it's just that little installment of fear when you're on vacation. You're
especially
like,
when it's busy and like, are they really going to be paying attention because they're already getting 400 different orders? Are they really going to be that safe? So maybe someday we'll trust Universal a little bit more, but definitely trust Disney a lot more. Mm-hmm. And that's one big stressor about theme parks is for especially people with allergies is like, can I trust anything there?
Yeah. Well, and many people do this, but especially people with allergies, they bring snacks with them, or they find like trusty snacks. Like in every theme park, you can find a bag of chips, you can find some fruit, things like that to keep you moving, because you will get hungry. You do need to continue to drink water and things like that. But just those like little snack items are very helpful, even if you can't eat a full-blown meal. And usually, like with me, I don't really eat at theme parks. Like, I'll eat a good breakfast and then I'm good to go for the rest of the day. I'll just snack because I'm riding rides. Like, I'm just someone who's also cautious about eating before a ride. I just don't like that full feeling, and then going on a ride, it's like not fun. Yeah. So
one thing that I definitely think partners should, or people in a relationship should do, is prepare beforehand for your theme park day.
Right.
But you can bring a couple snacks. They may look through your bag where they're looking for weapons and like drugs. They're not looking for a granola bar and a pack of gummies and a water bottle. And so we bring like, a couple of granola bars, some other smaller snacks that, if there's not anything we can eat, or if there's not any time, we at least have something to nibble on, and plenty of water. And I think that also goes hand in hand with like preparing mentally before you go to a theme park. Like, it's always good to ask your partner before you go to somewhere busy, like, how do they feel in like busy locations?
Right.
Like, do they get anxious with lots of people around and stuff like that?
Well, and when you and I first went to a theme park, you were more like, I could tell that you were not bothered by the crowd, but it was a little much.
Yeah.
And I feel like over the past few years, you've been a more seasoned theme park goer, if you will.
Yeah, it sometimes can take a little time to get used to having so many people moving around in so many different directions, and it's hot, and
Oh, yes.
you're thirsty and
Hungry,
stuff like that.
tired.
So you kind of have to, you don't have to practice for it while you're home, but just talk about it and be like, hey, in case you get overwhelmed, this is the signal, squeeze my hand or something, and we'll go find, some shade, and we'll sit down for a minute. Because there often are places you can at least, sit down or lean against the wall
And there's
cool
often
off.
there's often like signals too that your partner
Oh, yeah.
definitely gives. Like if they're not as hype as they were 5 minutes ago, you might want to be like, hey, you might want to check in.
Are you good?
Yeah, hey, are you good? Because sometimes for me, and like my friends notice this very
Mm-hmm.
easily, and I'm sure you do too, but my social battery runs low, and you can definitely tell because I'm not like all about the theme parks. I'm not all about moving anymore. I'm not all about like, I'm a very like animated person, but you can definitely tell when I am running low.
Definitely.
So just having those signals and like making sure your partner understands like, hey, I might need a minute to chill here. Yeah,
Yeah.
making sure your partner actually understands too, because some partners might be like, well, we gotta get to this ride and we paid money and
Oh yeah, money's a whole other thing. You got to
It's money.
like definitely
It's
have to
not
talk
cheap.
about like funding, like before you go on the trip. Like, hey, this is what we're going to be expecting. Because believe you can look at the prices of menus before you even go. At least at Disney, I think you can look it up. So
Yeah.
that would be a good idea
The
too.
gist.
If you're a little tight on budget, just do some quick glances. You don't have to plan if you're not a planner, if you're type B. But just look over the menu items, go, oh, so it's going to be about, $20, $30 for the meals that we're going to get.
And they have tons of quick service
yeah.
places. You don't have to go and dine at the nicer.
And most of the meals
restaurants.
are honestly shareable. Like the burger I had was humongous at, I think it was Richter's.
Richter's
and I
and
could
Universal.
easily have cut that in half and shared it with Bailey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we tend to
And
share
we
our
share,
food anyway.
yeah, we share food at Disney all the time
Like the
because
chicken tenders
yeah,
and
we'll share a plate
fries.
of chicken tenders, and I'll just get an extra order of fries.
Yeah, we just order an extra order of fries, and then we're pretty much good. So
If you're a little short on budget and you're going to a theme park, you can probably get away with ordering one entree and just an extra side.
Yep.
And that'll probably hold you over because as you're moving around and stuff, your body kind of goes into conservation mode, and then if you bring snacks with you, you can just nibble on those until your next meal or whatever. And definitely get a big breakfast.
I was gonna say
Yeah,
breakfast.
just
is key.
start with breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So definitely start I think that's one of our keys is start with a big breakfast. Because that'll hold you over until I think we typically do a really late lunch.
2 p.m.
Yeah, we do a late lunch,
We do
and
get
that
a
lunch
snack,
is
but,
we'll have a snack
again,
maybe.
share something. So.
Yeah, and so get a late lunch that we share with an extra side, and then by dinner time that we usually have a super late dinner. So by the dinner time we're hungry, but we can actually sit down. And it's the end of the day.
No more rides.
No more rides. We're gonna eat.
Yeah.
We're gonna pig out.
Right. And this works for any theme park. It's not just Disney. There's places in Six Flags that we've been to.
Mm-hmm.
There's places in Universal. Busch Gardens is really great. I think they even have Chick-fil-A there. So
Oh. So while we don't have any kids, someday, we definitely have seen our fair share of
Freak-outs.
families at least Disney.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, it is.
It's really
So-
sad.
it's someti- yeah,
For
it's-
me, when I see that, I'm I know the parents are really trying to make sure that their kids are having the best time. They've bought bags and bags of merchandise. They're doing the most amazing dine-ins where they meet the characters. They're
Yeah.
staying at the nicest hotel. This is their family vacation. They paid probably $10,000 or more dollars. And you could tell what families are who. You can definitely tell who the locals are. At least in my eyes, I can tell who the locals are, or maybe local states are. And then you could tell the families who have never been here
Yeah.
before and have high expectations, and they're coming down, and it's 8 p.m. right?
Oh, they're
8
coming down
p.m.
from
is
the north. Yeah,
downfall.
they're coming down from the north where it's pretty mild temperatures down to Florida heat and humidity.
right. That
And everyone's
they
miserable.
Don't, they don't
and-
probably exercise like this ever.
Oh,
they
yeah.
don't always
You don't walk
for
5 miles
13
a day.
hours.
Yeah.
You don't walk 13 hours a day. The kids usually take naps in between the days, and they're not taking any nap because there's so much
Yeah.
to see. So I understand why the freakouts happen. It's just sad that they do. And it's also made us realize,
We want to have some of those. Are we sure?
right? We're man, that's really rough, because it really does test your relationship with your partner, because there's just already so much going on, and then your child's screaming, and you're just trying to communicate with your partner what we need to do to get out of this situation, and it just looks like a mess.
Like, my advice for parents, if you want to go to Disney, you need, just like you would do with a marathon or a super long camping trip, is you prepare, like you train. Like, honestly, I guarantee you have a local theme park, a Six Flags or something, or equivalent. Take your kids to there a couple of times as sort of a preparation, and like, hey, this is how theme parks work. We're going to be outside all day. We're going to be walking. We're going to be drinking, making sure we drink water and stuff like that. And so you kind of build up to that big Disney trip where you actually are spending all day, and this is the real deal. We actually we have to pay attention to these things because we don't come to Disney very often.
Well, and Disney, I would say, and you had me say, like, oh my gosh, I realized Disney it's the freaking marathon of theme parks.
Yeah. It's like climbing a mountain. It's like climbing Everest. You want to prepare for it. You can't just
in any type of weather.
A brand new family, with brand new kids, jumping straight into Disney is going to be trying to climb Everest without any training whatsoever or a guide. And just as you would with a partner in a relationship, keeping an eye on like how your kids are feeling, and like, oh, are you feeling overwhelmed in this crowd and stuff like that? Just check it, which I'm sure you know their signals. So just take heed to those signals and recognize that, like, oh, these plans we made might have to take into account, like, hey, look, they are really not feeling good. Maybe you definitely have to give them a locker room talk. Be like, hey, look, look, team, this is going to be stressful. And we need to be able to communicate how we're feeling and what we really want to do.
There's a lot of expectations when you go to theme parks, and people really do get upset when they don't get to do something. Like, I totally understand, because if they're spending all this money and they only get to go this one time until the next 10 years, because seriously, people literally save for this for years.
It would be smart to look up. Like, you probably are, if you're planning to go to Universal, Disney, or whatever, you're probably already looking at videos of like, oh, what's it like there? But what you should seek out is the videos that are like, hey, look, this part ain't so great. This is how you can prepare for it. You know?
Well, and there are certain rides, too, with kids that you do not want to ride.
A Bug's Life.
A Bug's Life and Animal Kingdom is a heck no. Never riding that with our child. And if we riding it, it's not even a ride, but it's just so scary. It's so scary. Like, even as an adult, you're like, this is spooky. This is so spooky. And you see a ton of kids like start crying.
Oh, those poor things.
Like, there's one part where you just know when the lights go out and all the creepy crawlies go. But then, there's a ton of other rides that just might not be kid friendly for some.
Yeah. So I think to wrap up this episode, our advice is go when they recognize characters, if you're going to a theme park that has characters. The younger they are, the less time you should spend at the park itself. Bring snacks and water, or at least an empty water bottle that you can fill up at the park. Discuss like how it's going to be stressful with either your partner or the group that you're going with, and then roll back your expectations. You're going to have a fun time. That is almost guaranteed. But you'll have more fun if you rein back in the expectations, and not think it's going to be a perfect, experience, but that it's going to be good despite issues that'll come up. You just got to prepare before you go on a big trip. Well, I think that ends this episode of ETC.
See you real soon.
Bye.